So welcome, Yadunandana Maharaj. Thank you for being with us. We can see you already, and I can see that you have unmuted yourself. Thank you very much for being with us. And without any further ado, I would like to hand over to you. And if there are any questions from anyone in the audience, you can always type them into the chat box or wait until the end. Then you can ask your questions. We will be hearing from Maharaj for around 1 hour or so, or let's say we have time until around 8 o'clock Central European time, but yeah, we are kind of flexible. You can go a bit over time if needed.
Thank you very much, Karuna Shakti Prabhu, for giving me this opportunity to address your group of study organized by ISKCON Berlin. I'm very happy to connect with you. I heard many good things about ISKCON Berlin in different times. So I'm very happy to be able to share with all of you. I will start with a small invocation, and then we can read the verse from the chat. We can read the verse. Om Akyanate Mirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Murave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpa Tarupyascha Kripa Sindupya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we are reading from Bhagavad-gītā As It Is, chapter 5, entitled Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness, text number 3. So I'll read the verse and then we will enter into the discussion. Jñeyaḥ nitya-sannyāsī yo na dveṣṭi na kāṅkṣati nirdvandvo mahā-bāho sukham bandhāt pramucyate. Jñeyaḥ means should be known, saha, he, nitya, always, sannyāsī, renouncer, yāḥ, who, na, never, dveṣṭi, abhors, na, nor, kāṅkṣati, desires, nirdvandvaḥ, free from all dualities. He, certainly, mahā-bāho, almighty armed one, sukham, happily, bandhāt, from bondage, pramucyate, is completely liberated. Translation: one who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated. Almighty armed Arjuna. Srila Prabhupada's purport: one who is fully in Krishna consciousness is always a renouncer because he feels neither hatred nor desire for the results of his actions. Such a renouncer dedicated to the transcendental loving service of the Lord, is fully qualified in knowledge because he knows his constitutional position in his relationship with Krishna. He knows fully well that Krishna is the whole and that he is part and parcel of Krishna. Such knowledge is perfect because it is qualitatively and quantitatively correct. The concept of oneness with Krishna is incorrect because the part cannot be equal to the whole. Knowledge that one is one in quality, yet different in quantity, is correct transcendental knowledge, leading one to become full in himself, having nothing to aspire to or lament over. There is no duality in his mind, because whatever he does for Krishna. Being thus freed from the platform of dualities, he is liberated even in this material world. Verse and translation again. Jñeyaḥ nitya-sannyāsī yo na dveṣṭi na kāṅkṣati nirdvandvo mahā-bāho sukham bandhāt pramucyate. One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated. O mighty armed Arjuna. So this is a very important topic because it is one of the central teachings of the Bhagavad-gītā. We are in the context of, as many of you may know, the Bhagavad-gītā is divided into 3 parts. The 18 chapters can be divided into 3/3. 1/3 chapters 1 to 6, then the middle part, chapters 7 to 12, and then the third part, chapters 13 through 18. According to Vaishnavacharyas, the first part, chapters 1 to 6, where we are now, correspond to the teachings on karma yoga. That is, to apply yoga, the connection with God, through performing our duties in this world with detachment as a yajña, as a sacrifice to Krishna. The central chapters correspond to we could say it is the heart of the Bhagavad-gītā, the teachings on Bhakti Yoga, and the final chapters correspond to teachings on Jnana Yoga. The first section and the last section are meant to reinforce the essential message of the Bhagavad-gītā, which is one of bhakti, pure devotional service. Actually, not just bhakti, but ananya bhakti, or undivided devotional service to Krishna, without any other intentions or interest. So now we're in the section describing karma yoga, and specifically in where we are now, the question has been asked by Arjuna to Krishna. This is one of the topics of the Gita that I'm actually, as a matter of fact, it is a topic for any person interested in practicing seriously spiritual life. This question may arise. To what extent should I renounce the world and just cultivate philosophical understanding, philosophy of life? I withdraw from the world, or to what extent I should be involved in the world? Generally, many people think that unless one retires from the world, it is not possible to become advanced spiritually in a true sense of the expression. The tendency is to think that, and this was Arjuna's approach to the challenges he was facing in the Battle of Kurukshetra, having to confront his own guru, his grandfather, and many other family members who wanted to fight him, and of course his brothers. In that sense, plural will be correct. So for him was a big challenge, as much as it can be a challenge for many of us to perform some of our duties in this world. Recently, I was speaking to one mother who was a single mother. The father of the child left, disappeared, and seems to be an irresponsible fellow. And this mother was telling me the difficulties of having to take care of her child. She wanted to study, to do many things in life. She's an artist and so many things, like she wanted to do art, culture, intellectual pursuits, and so on. But the child is only 2-3 years old. It happened that her mother left her when she was a teenager. So naturally that was very tough for her. So the natural tendency, this is something we find many times in the contemporary context, where anything goes, but nothing goes, actually. Like this is kind of the situation. We say anything goes, but then when it comes to functioning, to make something functional, everything is highly dysfunctional. Families are dysfunctional, communities are dysfunctional, governments are dysfunctional. And excuse me if this sounds like a very bleak picture of the situation, but it's quite what many of us experience in dealing with the world. And this is so due to a lack of consciousness. The lack of consciousness, and of course consciousness ultimately means Krishna consciousness, in that in order to be able to see everything on the proper perspective, we need to see through the Krishna's lens. So Krishna consciousness means to see that everything originates from Krishna, that we are part of Krishna, we belong to Krishna, and we are united to Krishna through service in terms of our constitutional original position. It is true that Srila Prabhupada said, first be conscious, then you become Krishna conscious. So there is a very clear relationship between consciousness and Krishna consciousness. So the fact is that there is a tendency for dysfunctionality. And in this case, this mother was actually expressing, was telling me that, yes, like, because the first thing when she told me that she didn't feel like taking care of the child, she comes to the spiritual advisor to ask for advice on that. What will the spiritual advisor tell the mother? Take care of your child, of course, especially if the child is 2-3 years old. But then she was expressing that, yes, everybody is looking for the needs of the child, but what about the needs of the mother? And in one sense, she was right, because as a child, she was not properly taken care by the mother. The mother left her. So when she was a child, so the tendency, that's the pattern. We tend to be loyal to our seniors and to do what they did to us. That's a human condition, and it's the natural tendency of the soul to follow the superiors. So if the superiors who are meant to represent God, they do it in a, we could say, dysfunctional way. Let's use this term. See, if the person does it in a dysfunctional way, the tendency of the follower will be when he or she will act as a guide, as a leader, will tend to do it in the same dysfunctional way that the superiors did it. This is the situation. So the point why I'm referring to this mother is that I won't get into the details how it ended the discussion. I think we came to a point of confluence which was good, but the point is that in this world there are many challenges. This mother was facing the challenge. She was alone in the world with her child. She needed help and was tough for her. That was the point. And that was what she wanted to come across, that what about my needs also? My child, yes, but what about me also? I'm not strong enough to take care of my child. And in between the lines, she was saying, I was not taking care properly. How I can take care properly? I was not taking care properly. So the point is that in the age of Kali, it is difficult to perform our duties, and Arjuna was facing a particular challenge in a society much more functional than the present one. But still, he had to face the fight against his guru, Dronacharya, and against the patriarch of the dynasty, Bhishmadev, and many other dear ones. It was a very tough situation. And his tendency is, okay, karma sannyas, I renounce work. I get out of here, I become a monk, a yogi, and the problem is solved. Isn't it? This is sometimes we do that. I go to the temple, take shelter, the problem is solved. Sometimes we may do that. Go and live in the temple. But actually, the challenges will come back. The question of Arjuna in this chapter is, you are asking me, sometimes you ask me to renounce work, and then you are asking me to act in karma yoga. So please, what is best? What should I do? And the answer of Krishna is unequivocal, it's very clear. Both are good. Karma sannyas, renouncing the work in the material world, is good for advancing in a spiritual life. And karma yoga, acting, offering the fruits of action to God, is also good. But from both, karma yoga vishishyate. Karma yoga is best. It's much better. And this was a topic of the previous verse. Whoever, when you read it and was a speaker, you may have already explored that. Still, I may refer to it because it's a very important topic of this section. This is actually the issue of today's verse. The verse says, jñeyaḥ nitya-sannyāsī, that the person who has such detached consciousness, that person is actually a true sannyasi. And this is a recurring teaching we find in Bhagavad-gītā. And ultimately, that was Krishna's message to Arjuna. Take care of your child, in the case of the mother. In the case of Arjuna, you're a kshatriya, fight. But fight in karma yoga, and fight for me. And fight with detachment, fight in yoga. The first definition of yoga found in Bhagavad-gītā, it's in chapter 2, text 48. I'll write it for you in case later on, it's in the chat, in case later on you like to check that verse, or even now. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyakva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samopudva samatvam yoga uchyate. Krishna says that Arjuna becomes situated in yoga. Yogastha, become established in yoga. Kuru karmani. Karmani, meaning active. You must be being situated in yoga doesn't imply you renounce action, but you are active. Sangam tyakva dhananjaya. What you need to abandon is not action, but actually attachment, sangha. Attachment for the fruits of action. Siddhya siddhyo samopudva, and remain equal in front of success, siddhi, perfection, and asiddhi, imperfection, difficulties. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Such equal state of mind, balanced state of mind, is understood to be yoga. And here it is saying something actually very similar, or we can make a connection here, that the person situated who acts in karma yoga does not hate nor desires the fruits of action, but doesn't mean the person stops acting. The person may be even more active than an ordinary materialistic fellow. But such a devotee is acting for Krishna. And therefore, it feels very satisfied, and it is free from dualities, nirdvandvo. So, siddhya, siddhi, or sama, this feeling equal in perfection or imperfection, indicates this state of consciousness, karma yoga. And na dveṣṭi na kāṅkṣati, no hating anything and not lamenting for it, not deciding anything. And of course, that implies also not lamenting for anything. And such a person, sukham bandhāt pramucyate. becomes completely happy and liberated from material bondage. So, and a theme, and this you can use also for those of you who are preachers and who present Krishna consciousness to other people, or you may be sharing it in a more informal setting with friends. But this is relevant in terms of recognizing the traditions of the Jñanis, the impersonalistic tradition of the mahā-bāho school, such as the followers of Shankaracharya, and many branches and sub-branches of these Jnana and Yoga schools. Generally, karma-sannyāsī, as defined in this chapter of the Gita, that is renouncing work, is connected to jnana, to cultivation of a monistic philosophy about life. And therefore in the purport, if you notice, Srila Prabhupada is speaking about becoming one with God and explaining the true meaning of becoming one with God. Because the Jñanis, followers of Shankaracharya, in any of their expressions, like now there are many, what it is called in the academic world, neo-Vedantic traditions. Basically, it means new expressions of mahā-bāho philosophy, perhaps somewhat more diluted, but the idea is the same, that they want to be one with God. Yesterday or day before yesterday, I was lecturing in the temple in Madrid, and during the morning class, one guest who obviously was very much influenced by the mahā-bāho idea of unity, and this is the idea of karma-sannyāsī, jnana yoga. So it is cultivation of knowledge, but you retire from the world. Of course, nowadays, these neo-Vedantic people, they do not follow the true original tradition of jnana yogis. It's actually quite a mishmash, what Srila Prabhupada would call hodgepodge, like a big khichdi, like mixing everything and then doing all this philosophy, big philosophy, but then they go to the bar and they take a beer and smoke a cigar, and then they do in Germany, you may have seen it, they do, have you seen beer yoga? Have you seen that? You can do it. I'm sure there are many Germans who do that. I don't mean to criticize the Germans, but because in Germany, beer is very popular. And I saw in the pictures, many of them look like German fellows or North. And in Spain, they may do it with wine later on. They will copy the wine yoga later on. They didn't got the inspiration from these fellows. So, but anyway, so they have this beer yoga. You can do it. You can see it. I can even show you. If you allow me, Karuna Shakti Prabhu, can you allow me to share the screen? We can do, and then we will do a Google search and I'll find it for you. For those of you who are not.
I think I permitted you to share the screen. As you were speaking, I was also conducting a Google search, and there are some funny pictures indeed to be found on the internet.
So just for everyone to see, if you don't mind, I will. And this you will see this looks like somewhat extreme. Can you see it? Are you seeing the screen? let's look a bit more closely. Can you see the pictures? Om Bir Namaha, or like whatever. You see. So you see, this is very much, I mean, some of these are really far out. It's can be extreme, really, but it can be even grotesque. I mean, it's quite, you see. Anyway, I don't want to, but just for those of you who didn't see it. So you see, the point is that these neo-Vedantic traditions can be truly extreme, go to the max. I mean, this is, but originally this tradition of karma sannyas described in the beginning of chapter 5 is connected to Jnana Yoga, and these are the followers of Mayavadis or Gyanis, yogis. Like you could find some of the traditional ones, like for example, if you go back to even some like, I mean, I didn't study them so closely, but in South India, you may find, for example, Ramana Maharshi. So he's a Gyani, he's a Mayavadi, but he's into Jnana. But he won't buy into these crazy things via yoga and all these crazy practices. But in the age of Kali, things become more diluted, and it starts with beneficial material charitable work, which then becomes degraded. There is one famous neo-Mayavadi who traveled in the West about 1 century ago, maybe a little longer. And he was promoting the philosophy, yata mata tata pata, that you follow any path you follow, you attain the same destination. And this goes against the teachings of the Sri Upanishad and the teachings of Bhagavad-gītā. In Bhagavad-gītā, we find that this is not the case. Yanti deva vrata devan, pitrin yanti pitri vrataha, bhutani yanti bhuteja, yanti matya jinopimam. That if you worship demigods, you go to the demigods. If you worship ghosts and spirits, you go to those beings. If you worship the ancestors, you go to the ancestors. If you worship God, you go to God. So it's very clear, and we find also in the Sri Upanishad the statement, very clear statement: if you follow the path of vidya, transcendental knowledge, you attain one destination. If you follow the path of avidya, ignorance in whatever of its manifestations, you will attain a very different destination. So generally, karma sannyas and jnana yoga are very much connected. The Gyanis, they foster cultivation of knowledge, jnana, and vairagya, renunciation. But the way they understand renunciation is by cutting off all material activities and accepting the renounced order of life, sannyas. Even to the extent, if we go to the Orthodox practices, we find still some in South India. They will not even use, the sannyasis will not even use metal. They will not do anything connected to fire. No fire, no cooking for oneself. So no connection to fire, at least directly. And then not use of metal. Metal has been, if you are using a pot or even a patra for puja, that has been made with, work with, through the agency of fire. So therefore the most orthodox, they will even renounce that. These are the extreme cases. But such an interpretation is also rejected by Krishna in the Gita. We will come to that in the beginning of the next chapter, Dhyana Yoga. In the first verse, Krishna states, Anashrita karma palam karyam karma karoti yaha sa-sannyāsī ca yogi ca naniraknir na chakriyaha. That the true yogi and sannyasi is the person who performs his duty according to the dharma, the specific dharma he or she has, and performs the dharma with detachment. And it is understood in karma yoga as an offering to God, and not the person who does not lightens any fire, nor performs any duty. So Krishna here is saying, actually the karma yogi is a nitya-sannyāsī. He's always such a person of knowledge, jñeyaḥ and nitya-sannyāsī. It's a true renounced person. And this resonates with Srila Rupa Goswami's explanation of true vairagya in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Anasaktasya vishayam yatarhanupayunjataha nirvanda Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate. That true renunciation implies to see everything Krishna sambandha, in relationship with Krishna. And then we use it for Krishna. Everything for Krishna. There were one Grihastha couple in Portugal. They had, now they live here in New Brajamandala. They are taking care of the cows now. And they had a company, they had a company, it was named All for Krishna. I'll write for you on the chat. All for Krishna. That was the company. And it was a very, very family little company, and they were producing with recycled materials, all types of bags and suitcases and many different things. And then because they are devotees, they were doing it for Krishna. So they decided to call the way they were making money, all for Krishna. And they were generous, they were giving donations and actively involved in the ISKCON mission. And now, because they did everything for Krishna, now they're taking care of Krishna's cows. This is not they're doing their servicing. They seem to be happy in this service for the last few years. In New Brajamandala, from where I'm speaking to you today. So true renunciation means to see everything in relation to Krishna and to offer the results to Krishna. And this is karma yoga. Whereas karma sannyas has the risk of being an incomplete or improper renunciation, or even an imitation renunciation. And Rupa Goswami has described it with the words, prapanchikataya buddhya harisambandhi vastuna mumukshuvi parityago vairayam phalgu katyate, which means that actually to renounce things of this world or occupations of this world, considering them material without seeing Hari Sambandhi, Vastuna, the true substance of the relationship with Hari, how they are connected to God, that's actually incomplete or false renunciation. There is a river in India, in the state of Bihar, named Phalgu. This river, and actually this term sometimes is meant, I wrote it on the chat, you can see it. That's Phalgu means false. And it's a river which appears to be dry. When you look at the river, it seems there is no water, but actually the river is providing water for so many towns and villages around. And then when you go to the river, actually you can see there is water. But the first impression is that it is a dry river. And it is called the Phalgu River. So sometimes a person may go to a cave to practice yoga, meditation, and cultivate knowledge, but then in the mind, the person is thinking of the objects of the senses. So actually such a person, what's the point of such renunciation? That's actually, as in chapter 3 of Bhagavad-gītā, if I remember correctly, text probably 6 or 7, karmendriyani samyamya yaste manasasmaran indriyarthan vimudhatma nitya-sannyāsī. The person who renounces the engagement of the senses externally, but in the mind, the person is active in the objects of the senses. Such a person is actually cheating himself. Nitya-sannyāsī. That's the behavior of a false person. So therefore, and I would like to end my explanation by referring to Srila Baladeva Videbhusana's words in relation to the commentary to the previous verse, but it's very relevant to the topic, to establish how karma yoga is much better than karma sannyas, especially in the age of Kali, to engage everything in the service of Krishna, than to try to renounce the world artificially and then being actually an hypocrite in action. Baladeva Videbhusana states, and it's interesting that the title that he has given to the titles of the Gita in the original formed in the Mahabharata do not have titles per se, but different commentators have given names to the chapters, like Srila Prabhupada entitled chapter 5, Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. And Sri Baladeva Videbhusana has given the title Karma Sannyas Yoga. And he's actually merging the two, Karma Yoga and Karma Sannyas, which is actually the message you will see in the next verses when you continue your study. But still in chapter, in verse 2, it is very clear that from the two, tayostu karma sannyasat, karma yoga vishishyate. From the two, karma yoga is best. And Baladeva Videbhusana explains it in this way. Asked by Arjuna, the Lord speaks, both are beneficial since they both lead to liberation. But karma yoga is better than jnana yoga, which is synonymous to karma sannyasa, in terms of the interpretation of the jnanis, especially those followers of Shankaracharya and similar branches. The meaning is this: karma yoga does not bear the same faults that arise in practicing jnana, but because of containing jnana within it, so karma yoga includes jnana, it brings about steadiness in jnana. For one who has renounced action because of steadiness in jnana, if he develops a fault in his consciousness, he must again perform karma yoga to correct the fault. So a jnani who falls down has to go back to do karma yoga. This is the induction of the scriptures for remedying the problem. Statements concerning renunciation of action actually mean that when one attains absorption in Atma, then all actions leave that person spontaneously. Therefore, karma yoga is better because it is easier to perform, because it is safer, and because it contains jnana within it. Thank you very much for listening patiently. If you like to ask questions, you can do so by asking or writing on the chat. You can unmute yourself and ask. I suppose you can do that, or you can write on the chat if, for whatever reason, it's more convenient for you. No questions? Any thoughts, any reflections? What this tells you? Okay, this devotee, Sumit Paul.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
Thanks a lot for this wonderful lecture, Maharaj. Maharaj, I have just one confusion. I just want to ask you that as in the words, Lord Sri Krishna says that who neither hates or desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. So for my point of understanding, what I can say, if I do some pious activities or some good activities, I can renounce those things and I can say like, Krishna, this is for you. I don't want any kind of fruits. But as I am a student and I am simultaneously trying to do some works also, so in study with like group mates and in work with like teammates, I have to speak sometimes, I have to lie with my friends, I have to, yeah, You have to
lie or you choose to lie?
It kind of, I had to lie. The situations were like that, that if I don't lie.
Can you give an example of that just so that we understand better?
So Maharaj, the incident is like that one of my teammate or like one senior colleague, as I'm a student, so they gave me some kind of task and I have to do that and report those things to them back. So let's say one of them asked me, what task I have given to you, have you done it or look into it? Even though I haven't not looked into it, I know if I say like I haven't looked into it, he might be angry with me. And so then I choose the shortest way to make him satisfied, and then I reply like, yeah, I have looked into it, I have done some work, I have done some research, I will report it back you to within 2 or 3 days. And then after 1 or 2 days, I start working. So my question is, yeah, not only that, Maharaj, I do a lot of bad things. So what I understand that we can renounce our pious work or good activities, but what about this kind of sins, what I am doing right now, these kind of things? In my mind, I am repenting that I shouldn't have done that, I shouldn't have lied or things like that, but yeah, I did. But how we can renounce, or how this thing work, like renouncing all of my work, pious work or sinful activities, whatever it is? That is my question, Maharaj.
Yes, the main point is to do everything for the pleasure of Krishna. And this is to be truly like this nitya-sannyāsī, or to be always renounced in the work, implies that we don't do it for ourselves, the fruits of action for ourselves, but we do it for Krishna. So even, for example, there is a case of how Maharaj Yudhishthira was ordered to lie by Krishna. You gave an example of lying. So Krishna asked Maharaj Yudhishthira, in order to stop Dronacharya, who was killing many warriors in the sight of the Pandavas, they needed to do something. And then the suggestion was made that Yudhishthira, you should say that Ashvatthama, the son of Dronacharya, is dead. Then Dronacharya will become morose and will stop fighting. And then you can defeat him. So for Maharaj Yudhishthira was very tough to say such a lie. But because it was for Krishna, finally he did it. In a bit tricky way, half lie. He said, Ashvatthama, the elephant, because there was an elephant who was killed by Bhima, so that Yudhishthira could get the courage to say the half lie, is dead. And sometimes some moralists, they say that actually, according to the Mahabharata, Yudhishthira had to see hell, had to pass by, or see hell. But actually, according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, he didn't see hell. He went back home, back to Godhead. And we take the authority of the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's it. We find this in the first canto, because the Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest Shastic authority from the Vedic literatures. So anyway, that's a different subject. But the point is that some moralists say that actually Maharaj Yudhishthira had to see hell because he said a lie. But actually, Vaishnavacharyas say, no. If you take the argument that he passed by hell, he saw hell because he doubted Krishna when Krishna told him to lie. So it's two different perspectives. But the point is that if we do things truly for Krishna, and that doesn't mean that we should use that to justify anything and say, okay, anything goes for Krishna. No, that we shouldn't do. That's why when you mention lying, I said, you have to, or you are choose to do. We don't have to do things. We choose to do things in a particular way, and we may be able to choose to them in a different way. Maybe next time, if you don't want to feel in such a situation, then you take some quality time, a little time, and at least look, even if a little, to the work, and then you tell him, okay, I look through it, even if it was very little, but you did look through it something. So then you don't have to find yourself in the same situation. So it's a matter of learning from our experiences. But the point is that we do things in the best possible way and offer them to Krishna. And then in this way, we remain detached, and we feel much happier in life. We don't have to regret for something sinful we did, and we know we shouldn't have done it, but we didn't want to get into trouble, or we didn't want to displease the person because we want to be in good terms to that person, and so on. I don't know if what I replied is relevant to you. Okay?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Please bless me so that I can follow your instructions, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Any other questions or comments? We have, I think, 5 minutes or so, till 8. Okay, I think we covered the topic. I hope that was useful to you and satisfying. And I suppose now you have your time of discussion and group work or whatever you do next. I think I did my share. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And maybe in the future, if you want to invite me again, not too often, because I have many classes, especially in Spanish language teaching courses. And on top of that, I'm practicing my service here, like walking my talk and serving as president in New Brajamandala when Krishna, through the devotees, asked me to do it. But from time to time, I may be able to join you and to participate whenever it is convenient for you.
So thank you very much, Maharaj, for this wonderful talk. It was very enlightening, very interesting. And I can see here some reactions in the chat box. Mangala Devidasi says, yes, very useful and satisfying. Thank you very much. Haribol, it was very good. Thank you. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for your class. It is so very nice to be seeing you live again after such a long time, right, Sukumari? And with that, I send nice greetings to the north of Germany, Hare Krishna Sukumari. We haven't seen each other in quite a long time, for quite some years, but I have known her for, I think, almost 15 years now. And it's very nice to have her here in this group. And Vrajataruni writes, Jai Maharaj, thank you. And yeah, I cannot say anything else. Jai Maharaj, thank you very much. That was very nice. And yeah, just a brief reminder, or well, not a reminder, an announcement. Next week, we will be covering the subsequent verse 5.4 with Sutapa Prabhu. Some of you may know him, some of you may not. He is from the UK and he is currently, and I just looked it up, on the sannyas waiting list, and he is due to take sannyas next year. And he is quite a young brahmachari, and as I said, training to become a sannyasi, and he gives wonderful lectures. He also wrote a book about the Bhagavatam. He has given various insights into the topic of studying the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad-gītā, and he is a great speaker. He gives a very nice analytical, but also very easily understandable and interactive talks. And yeah, don't miss it out. Come here next week at the same time, and then you can join us and him, and we can hear from him studying the next verse of the Bhagavad-gītā. And with that, I say thank you very much to all of you. Gracias, obrigado, and thank you. And yeah, we will definitely come back to you, Maharaj, and contact you again sometime in the future for another lecture on another verse of the Bhagavad-gītā. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.